This is an alternative to the granny square. It's called a mosaic granny, and as you can see it adds quite a bit of texture and interest to the standard granny square pattern. It's made very similarly using trebles, although in places we do use double trebles. So if you're looking for a nice textured alternative to a granny square, this is possibly the one for you. This particular piece is part of a project that I'm doing, and I'm using So Crafty DK yarn, which is Aldi's own brand. It's an acrylic yarn. It works out about £1 for 100 grams, and so far I found it to be very good. It's a close second to Stylecraft. It's not quite as soft as Stylecraft yarns, but it's nice and consistent. The only problem with it is if you run out, you've just got to hope that they have it on offer again at another time. The reds and purples were from a pack at Christmas, and I think there was 5 shades in a pack for £4.99. The black is a pack of 4 100-gram balls for £3.99. It's just a matter of making sure that you buy enough for the project when you're buying it. So to start with, I'm going to take my yarn and I'm going to do a slip knot, put it on my hook, and I'm going to chain 4. The first chain is in lieu of a magic ring, and the other 3 is a false treble. So I'm going to do a treble right into the bottom loop, and that makes my second treble, and then my third treble into the bottom loop to make the first part of a granny stitch. And then I'm going to chain 2, and I'm going to do 3 more trebles into that bottom loop. You can see the bottom loop does get a little bit larger, but it's still tighter than if you were to chain 4. And then for the next corner we're going to chain 2 and 3 more trebles into the bottom loop. Chain 2 to make another corner, 3 more trebles, and chain 2 to make another corner. And then as normal I'm going to slip stitch into the third chain up, which is the top of our false treble. And to get to this corner I'm just going to slip stitch through the tops of the next stitches and slip stitch into the corner. And there we're ready for our next round. So to start our next round I'm going to chain 3 to make a false treble, 2 more trebles into the corner, chain 2 and 3 more trebles into the corner. Normally when we're doing granny squares we put 3 chains in the corner. On this one we're only going to do 2. It makes it a little bit tighter, and then just chain 1 to get across to your next corner, and then it's just a case of 3 trebles, chain 2, 3 trebles, and then chain 1 to get to the next corner, and again 3 trebles, chain 2 and 3 trebles, and then simply chain 1 to move across to our next corner chain space and put 3 trebles, chain 2 and 3 more trebles back into that corner. And then I'm going to simply chain 1 and slip stitch into the top of the third chain up, which is the top of our false treble. And I'm going to change colour here, so I'm just going to snip the yarn. I've chained 1 and I'm going to pull the yarn through. So we're going to take our next colour and we're going to fasten on, and I like to do it in the next corner round. It can be any corner, it doesn't matter, but it's just my preference to do it away from where we've just finished off. I'm just going to tie that on. And we're going to start our next round by chaining 3 to make a false treble. And as we're in a corner, we need 3 trebles, so I'm going to do 2 more. And in every corner we've got 3 trebles, a chain 2 and 3 more trebles. And then chain 1 to get us to the next chain space. So far it's just like an ordinary granny square. So we're going to do our first treble into the chain space, and this is where it's different. We're going to do a double treble, so wrap the yarn around the hook twice, and we're going to do a front post into the centre stitch of the row below. So we're going to put our hook around the centre stitch from the front to the back and back up, catch the yarn and pull it through. Now we do need to make sure that this stitch is quite loose or it will start pinching in. So we yarn over and pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. So that's a double treble. So we have a treble, a double treble, and we need to put another treble in this hole. So yarn over and put your treble in the original chain space, and you can see there that we have the first part of our pattern. So I'm just going to chain 1 to get to the corner, and it's a standard corner, so it's just 3 trebles. Chain 2 and 3 more trebles. And then I'm just going to chain 1 to get us to our next chain space, and we're going to repeat as before, so it's just a treble in the chain space as normal. The next stitch is a double treble, so you wrap around your hook twice, go down between the first and second stitch and back up between the third and the second stitch, or back up between the second and third stitch, catch your yarn, pull it back through, pull it up a little way, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, and yarn over, pull through 2. And then we're going to do another treble back into the chain space as we would normally. So we're always working the double treble into the row below around the second stitch of the 3 trebles. So to get back to the next corner, I'm going to chain 1, and it's a standard corner, so it's 3 trebles, chain 2, and 3 more trebles. And as normal, to get to the next chain space, we're going to chain 1 treble actually in the chain space, and a double treble around the centre of the stitch of the granny pattern stitch, and then another treble in the chain space as normal, and then we're back to the corner, so we chain 1, 3 trebles, chain 2, 3 more trebles into the corner, chain 1 to get back to the next chain space, so we're going to work a treble in here and a double treble around the centre stitch of the granny pattern in the round below. So treble, then a double treble, so we're wrapping the yarn around twice in the front and out of the back. Catch your yarn, pull it back through, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, and we're going to finish off with a standard treble in that chain space. And then to get back to the beginning, I'm going to chain 1, and again I'm going to slip stitch into the top of the chain 3 that made our false treble, and then slip stitch through the next 2 stitches, and finally slip stitch into the corner, and we're ready for the next round. So again we're going to chain 3 to make a false treble, and we're going to put 2 more trebles in the corner, chain 2, 3 trebles in the corner, and we're going to chain 1 to get to our next chain space, and we're going to work a treble in the chain space, and then we're going to do a long double treble and do a front post around the centre stitch in the row below. So round twice, and then we're going to do a standard treble back into that chain space, chain 1, and we're going to do the same in the next chain space, so it's a standard treble, and then a long double treble down into the row underneath, into the centre, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, and finish that off with a standard treble. And you're going to continue that all the way around. So you can see how the pattern builds up quite easily. The corners are always 3 trebles, chain 2, 3 trebles. And where you do a normal granny stitch, you always do a long double treble in the centre to the centre stitch around the front post of the row below. So I'll show you once more. chain 1 to get to the next space, a normal treble as you would with a granny square, and then a long double treble front post around the stitch below, and then to finish off a normal treble in the chain space, and each time you move across to a next space you chain 1. So I'm going to continue now, and I will meet you back when we get round to the beginning, ready to change our next colour. So I'm now at my last granny pattern on this round, so it's just a treble into that stitch, a double treble into the one immediately below the chain space, another treble into the chain space, chain 1, and slip stitch into the third chain up, which is the top of our false treble, and I'm going to fasten off. So you can see that the pattern's starting to build up here. So I'm going to join my third colour on here. And for this pattern, just like a granny square, you can go as big or as small as you want. This round, however, is slightly different. This round and the subsequent rounds are slightly different, and I'll come to that in just a second. So I'm going to start off as normal, and I'm going to chain 3 to make a false treble, and as we're in a corner we need 2 more trebles, chain 2 and 2 more trebles. Then as before, we're chaining 1 to get to the next chain space, and we're going to do a treble in that chain space, and then a long treble down to the centre stitch there. So we're yarning over twice, down to that stitch and do a front post around it, catch the yarn, pull it through, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, and then we're just going to do a treble into that chain space, and then chain 1 to move along to the next. So yarn over, do a normal treble in the chain space, and we need to do a long treble, long front post treble into the stitch below. Now you'll notice we've already done a long front post treble, and that's the stitch we're going to work around. So yarn over twice, around the back of the treble there, the double treble should I say, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, and then another treble into this chain space. And you'll find that you're working into a double treble on a lot of the stitches in the subsequent rounds. When you get back to a corner, you will always be working in a standard treble. So yarn over twice, down into the centre stitch, which is a standard treble, and work your long treble, and then just a normal treble back into the chain space. Chain 1 and we're back to a corner. So as we're at a corner, it's 3 trebles, chain 2 and 3 trebles, chain 1 to get to the next chain space, and 1 treble, 1 long double treble back post into the centre stitch below, and then another treble back into the chain space, chain 1 to get to the next chain space, 1 treble, a long double treble front post into the double treble below, and then a treble into the chain space as normal. And we're going to continue round like that. I'm going to continue and I'll come back when I get to the edge. The next round is going to be my final round for this pattern, and that again is slightly different. So I'll speak to you when we get back round. So I'm at my last pattern, so I'm going to chain 1 to get to the next chain space, do a normal treble in the chain space, do a long double treble into the front post of the stitch in the round below, do a normal treble into the chain space, chain 1, and I'm going to slip stitch into the top chain of the chain 3 we did before, which is the top of our false treble, slip stitch along into the next stitch to get me back to the corner, and the stitch after that, and then slip stitch into the corner itself. And you can continue going round using that pattern to get as big as you want. There are 1 or 2 pitfalls. You need to make sure that you're actually going into the centre stitch of the stitch on the round below and not off to one side. A couple of times I found myself trying to do the double treble around this stitch when I should be going around this one, and also sometimes I've forgotten to put the second treble or the third stitch in. So it's just a couple of things you need to be aware of. Now, as I said, you can do this as big as you want. The next round I'm going to do is my final round, and the final round is ever so slightly different. It starts off the same. I'm going to do chain 3 to make a false treble and 2 more trebles. So with 3 trebles there, chain 2 and 3 more trebles into that corner stitch. Normally we would chain 1 to get us to this chain space. However, in this case we're going to do a treble into the top of the centre of the granny stitch below and skip the chain 1, and then do a treble as normal into the chain space, a double treble into the front post of the middle stitch in the row below, and then my treble into the chain space. And again, here we would normally chain 1 and skip over. However, we're going to do a treble into the top of the centre stitch, which is the long treble or the long double treble below. So we're replacing the chain with a treble into the top of the centre stitch below, and this just gives us a stronger edge. So I'm going to do a treble into the chain space, and then a long double treble around the double treble in the row below, another treble into the chain space, and then we're not going to chain 1, we're going to do a treble into the top of the double treble below, and then a treble as normal in the chain space, and then a double treble into the round below, and then a treble in the chain space, And again, this is where we would normally do the chain 1, but we're not going to. We're going to do a treble into the top of the centre stitch below, and then work our way around like that. So basically, every chain we're replacing with a treble into the stitch directly below. And don't forget the same with your corner, so we're going to do a treble into the centre treble stitch there, and then we're going to do our 3 trebles as normal. Chain 2 because it's a corner, and 3 more trebles. So as you can see, that gives it a bit of a bolder, strong edge, and it's not as lacy as if we were doing the normal pattern. And that's just on the final round. So I'll do that once more for you. So instead of chaining 1, we're doing a treble into the top of the middle treble of the round below, treble into the chain space as normal, a double treble into the front post centre stitch of the granny stitch below, a treble into the chain space as normal, and then instead of chaining 1, just doing a treble into the top of the centre stitch, which in this case is the double treble, treble into the chain space, long double treble around front post of the double treble in the round below, another treble into the chain space, forget the chain 1 and do a treble into the top of the middle stitch, which is a double treble, treble into the chain space, and continue the pattern on like that. So we'd normally do a chain 1, but we're going to do a treble into the top of the centre stitch of the pattern below, which again is a double treble, treble into our chain space, double treble into the front post of the centre of the granny stitch below. So I'm almost round now. I've done a treble instead of a chain space into the top of the middle stitch in the round below. So I'm just going to finish off by doing treble in the chain space, a double treble front post around the centre stitch below, another treble into the chain space, and instead of a chain 1, I'm going to finish off with a treble into the top of the stitch below, and then slip stitch into the top of the chain 3, which is where we started, and I'm just going to yarn over and pull the yarn through and finish off. So that's our completed pattern. As you can see, the final round, because we've replaced the chains with a treble, there are no chain spaces, so you can't continue round once you've done your final round. You can get as big as you like following the standard pattern before you do your final round, but the final round just makes it easier to see the pattern, and it gives you a bit of a stronger base when you join your mosaic squares together. Another point to note is your double trebles should always go into a different colour from what you're working with if you're doing 2 rounds in the same colour. If you're doing 3 rounds in the same colour, it gets a bit more complicated because then you are going to do a double treble into one of these stitches which is the same colour. I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope it's clear enough for you. If you have any questions, please pop them into the comments below. If you've enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up please, and don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon if you want to be notified of our future videos. Thanks for watching. See you soon.